Right, how you doing, everyone? Hopefully you're enjoying your summer break, but the action returns soon, and we have a very exciting pre-season friendly. It's on the 23rd of June. It's a Friday night. It's St. Pauli visiting KDM at East End Park, and we are very, very excited to have footballing commentating legend. I know you absolutely hate that, but also German football expert Derek Ray here. How you doing, Derek?
Thanks for having me.
And listen, St. Pauli are coming to Dunfermline. Everyone's very excited about it. Tickets are selling very, very fast. But from the German side of you, because they're this team that are in Bundesliga 2, so I doubt many people will know many teams in Bundesliga 2, or certainly not heard of a lot of teams in Bundesliga 2, but everyone has heard of St. Pauli. Why is that?
Well, I think it's fair to say, Stephen, that St. Pauli have a following beyond the football, and they've been a consistent Zweite Bundesliga club in the last decade, the Zweite Bundesliga being the second division, the division below the Bundesliga, which attracts huge crowds, and St. Pauli are no exception, 29,000 capacity. I was actually staying right in the shadow of the Millantor, the stadium, just earlier this week, because I was covering Hamburg's playoff against Stuttgart. And they really are something special. And everybody in Germany knows St. Pauli. They have been in the Bundesliga before, but not in recent years. And everything really is a big party when it comes to St. Pauli, but you do have to add the political dimension to it. And the fact of the matter is you wouldn't really be a St. Pauli fan if you weren't to the left of centre, let's say, in political terms. A lot of what the fans do is about anti-fascism, anti-racism, anti-discrimination, anti-sexism. All these things are really important to St. Pauli fans. It goes to wider extension of community. And so they've attracted fans who are not just from the local area. St. Pauli, I should point out, is right near the docks in Hamburg. It's very near the Reeperbahn, which people obviously have heard of. And they are a neighborhood club. They pride themselves on being that. When I first went to Germany as a student, they weren't much of anything in football terms. People knew the name, but they hadn't really made this big sort of move to being what you would call now a cult club, a club that transcends just the neighborhood in Hamburg. And again, well liked by fans around Germany and in other countries too, who are of that persuasion, let's say. And they have fan friendships with many clubs around the world, including Celtic in Scotland.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the connection to Dunfermline as well. Dunfermline's ownership is based in Hamburg, and big St. Pauli connection there with Thomas Megel, who's our sporting director. And he's had some very famous moments for St. Pauli over the years as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thomas Megler obviously is somebody very well known in Germany and dear to the hearts of St. Pauli fans. And he clearly wanted to make his mark in Scotland with a club that was attractive from the point of view of doing what he and his team wanted to do, his group of investors. And that's what they've managed to do with Dunfermline. So I think it's great that St. Pauli are coming. And it'll be interesting to see what sort of atmosphere will be on show there. It's difficult to replicate the atmosphere of the Millantor, and I described it earlier as one big party. It really is. It really is something that hits you when you first go there. You know, it's an intimate stadium, but on show there are messages of support for particular causes, and people go there to have a really good time. You know, the Skull and Crossbones has, of course, been the flag that's been synonymous with St. Pauli for a long, long time. You know, going back decades. And, you know, the punk scene at one time was very much sort of front and center with St. Pauli. It attracts a wide variety of people, though, and, you know, people of different generations, and they are a progressive football club. And again, this is part of what I think we have to understand about German football as distinct from Scottish football. The 50+1 rule in Germany means that fans are, in most cases, the main owners of a football club. And so fans don't want to see corporations come in and bankroll a football club the way you often hear from fans in the UK. You know, look at Newcastle United. Most of their fans seem very happy to be bankrolled by the group that is currently bankrolling them. Not going to hear that in Germany. You're not going to hear fans saying, "Oh, I wish this big company or sovereign wealth fund would come in and actually bankroll us." Not a bit of it. And St. Pauli are very much at the vanguard of trying to keep that tradition going.
And I think all those points that you've raised there, a lot of Scottish football fans would love to see more of that in the Scottish game as well.
I hear that from Scottish football fans, but I also hear that the ship has sailed, and maybe it has, because I think there tends to be a lot of copying on a smaller scale what happens south of the border as opposed to looking to Europe. And you would almost have to have those protections built in for them to be part of Scottish football life on a daily basis.
In terms of the actual football on the pitch, I know that St. Pauli just missed out on the playoffs. I know they lost a big derby to Hamburg earlier on in the season. We were just chatting about that a few minutes ago. Jackson Irvine is obviously a name that people will recognise as well. What else can you tell us about the actual football side?
Well, he's the captain, Jackson Irvine. It's an interesting one because in Scotland we called him Irvine because it's a Scottish name clearly, and his dad was from Aberdeen. But in Australia, he has taken on the name Irvine, and so I always sort of nod to that. If that's what you want to be called, then that's what we'll call you. But yeah, of course, we all remember him from his time in Scotland, and he's very much the sort of the face of the team in terms of his attitude is very much a St. Pauli attitude, and the fans very much warm to him and his style of play, which is quite robust and getting stuck in. They were a little bit unlucky in the sense that they got off to such a bad start in the Zweite Bundesliga this season. So in the initial part of the campaign, it was mostly about staying in the second division rather than having any aspirations in terms of winning promotion. They've been sort of more upwardly mobile in the last few years. They were fifth 2 seasons ago, and they actually ended up fifth in this campaign. So what that tells you is that the second half of the season was much more productive. They went on this amazing run under Fabian Hürzeler, who they appointed as coach with great success. And it did look as though they might be in a position to catch their city rivals Hamburg. This is one of the great things about Hamburg being down in the second division. It's now going to be 6 successive seasons for Hamburger Sportverein, European club champions 40 years ago, let's not forget, but 6 successive seasons for them in the second division. But the Hamburger Stadtderby, as it's known, has now become a really important fixture on the calendar. It was a fixture that was rarely played, if ever, because Hamburg were fixtures in the top division and had never been relegated until 2018. But we're going to have 2 more of them next season, and they're absolutely intense. And as I said, St. Pauli came within a whisker of overtaking Hamburg. They lost the most recent derby 4-3. It was a cracking game, one of the games of the season, very open, back and forth. And from that point on, it was going to be difficult. When they drew with Fortuna Düsseldorf, both had an outside chance even then after the derby of getting into third place. But that draw more or less ended the dream of promotion for another year. The other thing I might say, Stephen, is that when you look at St. Pauli and Hamburg, I get this on my social media timeline a lot. It irritates me a bit, and bear with me on this, but it irritates me because Rangers and Celtic fans, to a large extent, sort of see Hamburg and St. Pauli as an extension of their Scottish rivalry. And the fact of the matter is, in Germany, you won't really hear fans of either club talk about Rangers and Celtic because they have their own proud traditions. You know, I think we have to remember that. They're very big clubs. Hamburg won the European Cup 40 years ago. You know, that tells you the scale of Hamburg, and St. Pauli, you know, are the smaller of the 2 clubs in the city, no doubt about it. But they have this following that that involves fans from elsewhere. But I get a little bit annoyed when people try to reduce these 2 clubs to aspects that are germane to Scotland and to the west of Scotland in particular. And as I say, there may be links, and there are links between Hamburg and Rangers and St. Pauli and Celtic, but there's an awful lot more to those 2 clubs than links with Scotland.
Yeah, absolutely. And seeing it through the prism of Celtic and Rangers is often the case in Scottish football, obviously. Just finally, Derek, as well, I know you're on the other side of the pond, you're in the States, you're based there, but you're back and forth to Germany quite a lot. Dunfermline obviously winning promotion from League One this year as well. I'm sure you'll have heard of that. I know you won't be fully up to date, but, you know, it's a really interesting meeting between two sides who want to get back to the top tier in their respective countries.
Absolutely. And, fair play to what Thomas and his team have done in helping Dunfermline towards that goal. I always think, being somebody who grew up in the 70s, born in the late 60s, grew up in the 70s, watched a lot of football in the 70s and the 80s in Scotland, Dunfermline are a great Scottish club. And, if you look at the history back in the 1960s and European matches and the iconic colours, everything about Dunfermline represents good old Scottish tradition. And so, yeah, they absolutely deserve to be where they are. And I think this will be a fun experience for all concerned, having St. Pauli come. And yeah, it's a friendly match, a challenge match in June. And it's not going to be the atmosphere that you would get for a competitive game, but it's going to be great fun. They are the words that I would certainly affix to this particular game, and I would certainly go if I could. I am in holiday mode, having been in Germany for several weeks, as you mentioned. I spend a lot of my time, more and more of my time there nowadays, and I will be following from afar, I have to say, and enjoy it. Good luck to everybody.
Thank you very much, Derek. You're welcome at East End Park anytime. I'll hopefully see you soon, mate. Okay.
Thanks, Stephen.